Welcome, Simsbury sports fans, to the Simsbury Community Media Summer 2024 edition of Inside Trojan Football, where we provide viewers with a closer look at the Simsbury High School football program throughout their seasons. I'm Roger Coombes, and as always with me is Dave Masters, approaching his 10th year as head coach after many seasons as an assistant coach. In this show, Coach will review the 2023 season, discuss the off-season activities of the program, and then we'll look at the upcoming 2024 campaign. Coach, thanks for coming out with us. It's August 13th, Monday the 19th. Yep. You guys start up, you head up to Kent.
Yep, second year we're doing that.
I love it.
Yeah.
That'll be good, and we'll get into a little more of that because I like that. It reminds me of Remember the Titans, which is probably my all-time favorite movie of all time. I love that movie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a good one.
Yep.
So this is just a nice way to kind of let folks know what happened last year, what you're doing in the off-season, which to me is amazing. The work you put in, Dave, is incredible.
Well, I think football in general lends itself to that. I mean, particularly this year with the CIAC rule change that allowed teams to do more. It really, I mean, the rule changed to allow what most football people were doing anyway.
I see.
And basically make it legal, I guess, is the...
To spend more time with the team.
Yeah,
the coaches.
I mean, and because football kind of goes all year, it's, you know, if you're in the deep off season like December, you're lifting, and then you do a spring kind of event and lift, and then in the summer you do a lot more events. But this year they gave you a certain number of hours you could actually work with your team. So
good.
Most teams took advantage of that. Football now is, kind of a 365 operation anymore.
It's really the only sport, I think, in high school that is like that.
Yeah. I think it's more or less like, well, what are they doing? You don't want to be the one not doing it. Plus, you try to balance that because you don't want kids to overload. And I, for one, want kids to play other sports. I think that's important too, because you only get one shot at high school. So I don't want anything that we do with football to interfere with something. If you want to play basketball, wrestle in the winter, you want to play baseball, lacrosse, rugby in the fall, like in the spring. Whatever you want to do, you should do that.
Absolutely.
So I don't ever want to hinder that.
Right.
Because competing is competing, and in the end, that helps us in the fall, So.
And different muscle motor and different skill sets.
The one thing we always try to keep consistent in the off season is strength training, because that really makes it, that takes advantage of the tool, something that we can do and be consistent at, and it helps them prevent injury, and it helps them.
And it benefits them for all sports.
Yeah, I mean,
tremendous.
We try to be whatever size we are, and Simsbury, we're not. We don't have I watched Glastonbury roll into a lineman challenge this summer, and they're all 6'6", 6'7", and they're 3. I'm like, where are these guys coming from? Those don't exist here. So we try to be as strong as we can. It doesn't, I'm not much on that. I just want them to be as physically strong as they can.
Definitely.
So it doesn't, we don't get too worried about size.
All right, let's just talk about the 2023 season. A recap. You had some nice all-conference players and another player that's going to be playing in the college level.
Yeah, I think last year wasn't our, in terms of record, it wasn't a good year, but there was some things that we needed to do last year to get us back on track. So we made some decisions last year to get us going in the right direction, because of COVID and some of the lack of football, not just in the high school, but some of these kids that didn't get to play youth that in those years that should have. There were some things that we needed to we took a hard look. What can we do to get us started? And like you said, it's an everyday activity, or, all full year activity, but like we discussed, but it doesn't happen quick. It's a lengthy process. So, we sat down, and I guess we had the discussion, like, how do we get back to where we want to be 2017, 2018, 2019, those years, when we were doing what we wanted to do. So we looked at all the different pieces and made some decisions to get us in that right direction. And so last year's record wasn't what we wanted to, but the things that we got out of last year was like, we wanted every single day to be an improvement. And the kids, and we said this at the senior banquet, every single day practiced harder than they did the day before. And at the end of the season, I mean, we were out of it at that point, and they were practicing hard. And there's a difference in that mentality, and that translates to the younger kids to show them and hopefully get us back on that track where the record improves.
I like it.
Which is, part of running a program for me. But the other pieces of running the program are doing things for your community, doing things to help you 10 years from now, be a good human, and all those kind of things played out in the right direction. So, like we were talking about before, over the course of my time, 30 plus years in football, we've won, we've lost, we've had average years, we've really had bad years. And so at this point, you look at what you can learn out of anything that doesn't go your way. And then you try and, you don't hit the panic button.
Yep.
And then my job as a coach is to make sure that the kids try to envision that, but it's hard. They're high school kids, it's losing can be a little bit contagious, as can winning be contagious. And so you try to stay even. So us as a coaching staff would try and stay even, focus on the next day, focus on the next game. And that's easier said than done sometimes, but you're going to lose if you're going to compete, and you're going to compete for as long as, you stick around long enough, you're going to know that that can be a passing thing, but it really is bad if you don't have success and you don't learn anything from it. Then that's the real loss. You know what I mean?
Because there's more than the wins and losses. I know that's super important, but in the football program, it just seems you have such a great family approach. And like you said, there's so many other things that are in that program than wins and losses. And at the end of their career, they might not think about, if they were only 500 or they 3-7. I think they're going to think about you and the coaching staff and the family. I truly believe that.
I hope so. And I think that's, and that's what I've learned. Like when kids come back to me and, whether it was when I was coaching at Hall or when I was an assistant at Simsbury back in like the 22 years ago when I started, like whatever those, we don't talk about wins and losses necessarily. I mean, lots of times that's part of the conversation, but that's not the focus. It's like, oh, remember when how about like, those are the kind of connections that football is really good at because you do see them all year. Like there's very rarely I lose touch with any particular kid for the entire season. Like it's not when I was coaching baseball, a lot of times they would, I'd see them during baseball season, then they'd go and do their whatever, and then they'd come back. For football, I know their families. I know what they do. I know what they like. I know what they don't like. I know what they like to eat because, you know what I mean?
We spend
so much time with them. And that's what, for me, I get out of it. And hopefully in 10 years, they get out of that. And now we're trying to win football games.
Of course.
Like we're not, because that enhances the program, and it makes it easier for us to do other things during the course of the year and not focus on, well, how do we get them to the next day so they're growing? So, I mean, we want to win for sure. And that's where our focus is always. But we also realize like last year we had 150 kids in the program. I mean, we have a bunch of coaches, we have families, and we care about each other, and we try to build that.
Yep.
I mean, that's a focus of ours.
Geez, if you have 150 players, then you got 2 parents. That's 300 additional.
Could be 2 parents. Could be
one. You're talking about 300-400
like
people.
And that's what I think. Football is. We ask a lot of them, but it impacts those families. Yeah. It impacts the community. It impacts a lot of different things. So I don't think that's missed on us. I think we try and focus. I mean, it's not. We can't just let that piece of it like
rule.
Right. We just gotta, keep it in mind, and it's just bigger than football sometimes. And I think that helps the football sometimes too.
Definitely. Yeah. So Mitch Wallman, he had a great year last year. Chad Myrano and Brody Mills, all conference players.
Yeah. Those were, Brody stepped up big time. He really, he was I think he was our leading tackler. And he really contributed. He's just a fighter, that kid. He's just a great kid. Chad, of course, following in the legacy of his brother John, and Chad did not play football as a junior. He tried to focus on wrestling, realized he missed football, came back his senior year. I would have loved to have him the whole time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mitch is one of those rare birds where like he was a good leader. He was good on offense, defense. He was good in the locker room. I'd go there and then I'm trying to be the last one there. You'd go down and he'd be cleaning the locker room. Like he was one of those guys. You know what I mean? So he was super impactful, and that's part of what I find to be successful for this coming year. Those kids got to see that.
Yeah.
And the kids working as hard on the last day after we lost to Glastonbury as he was on the first day. So that, and eventually, once that it happens for you and you click and you realize, oh, we can win, and oh, we should be winning, and oh, this is how we do it, you go back to those examples of how it got done.
Yeah, Mitch, he won the Barry Calmary Scholarship Award that I present, and I got input from you, I got input from TJ, the wrestling coach, and I got input from Dan Lee, and you were all on the same sheet as far as this young man sounded like quite a.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure when he goes to Boston University next year, his professors and whatever he does, he's gonna.
He's very mature, young man.
Yeah, he is. He really is, and he listens. That's when I sit in meetings with kids in these leadership meetings that we do.
Yeah.
A lot of times there's kids that talk and there's kids that listen, but are they listening and thinking? Like, how you can tell when a kid is listening and
getting something
taking
out
it
of
in.
it.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
And then Kellen Wilson, he's going to play at CCS.
He's trying to walk on there.
On,
He's a big frame kid, and that's the thing about when you have certain size, you're 6+, 6'2", 6'3", and you've been big your whole life. Like, that's something to be celebrated. A lot of times, like, we're like big guys and big, for us, it really is an avenue to play at the next level because, he's got great length, got great reach, can bend in all the right places. Will Varble, like in 2015, we had not a good season, and he got that scholarship to Colgate.
Yeah.
And they didn't even look at his film, but when you're a certain size, that's a very, it's a nice avenue in. And if you work hard and you're a good football player like Kellen is, then those things can translate into you getting an opportunity at the next level to play.
Sure. In basketball, we have a saying, you can't teach 6'9".
Right. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, you get to.
And when you walk into a room, you notice those people.
Yeah.
I like to take my people to see that kind of level athlete, and they just look different. They're just.
One of the funny stories is because he played basketball with my son Corey. Is Karan.
Yep, I know who he played football too.
Yeah, he played football late.
Yeah.
Bickford, right? I think. Yeah. And he was getting looks from schools, and he only played 1 year.
He could have played football. It's just based on
because he was so big. Yeah, he was a great kid too. Good hoop player. All right, well, good. That's good, Dave. I like all that about your season and how you teach to life lessons, and every day in practice is a little better than the day before, and that's how you measure how the players are handling.
I think most coaches do that. I think most coaches will look and try to do that. I think it's hard to stay focused on that, and I just think because of the situation of football being all year, it helps with the connection that you build all year to get through some of those harder periods.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, well, good. Let's move on to 2024. Your 31st season coaching, 22 years at Simsbury, 10 years as head coach, and looks like you've got...
Those are some big stuff. Getting old.
We always joke about that.
I think the gray beard just came.
When you start thinking about 30 years in coaching, that's a lot of players coming through.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Yeah. But you got a great staff. Your staff. That's one thing I always admire about you, Dave, is how you get your staff to come. You got some who do receive a small stipend, and then you got some that are volunteers.
Yeah, we run the whole gamut of from paid coaches to guys that give their time freely to whatever we can do to make them work. But they, And that's part of the process. I feel lucky all the time to have the amount of guys that we have, because I really think if I was going to make a priority of anything for the football program, I know we have a lot of stuff and we do a lot of, but it's really the coaching.
Yeah.
But not just any coach. Like you can learn X's and O's, but can you teach people how to be good humans and do it the right way? So
Yeah.
a lot of these guys that come to me are great character people. All of them are great character people, and that's the first thing that, if we're looking to hire or what that's that's a conversation piece for us.
Sure. And I love the way you got 10 former Trojans.
Yeah.
Out of 20. That's incredible. Now you got a new offensive coordinator, Marquise Ruffin.
Yeah, Q.
Q Ruffin. He comes from
NFA.
Norwich Free Academy.
Yeah.
So he'll be your offensive guy.
Yeah.
That's a lot big responsibility. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
and a change because we had Moose, from 2015 to last year, and then Coach Malqui, who really was, under Moose and learned his style of offense, took over last year, and now Malqui stepped away to be a dad. And so we looked, this is the first time we kind of went outside of the program and looked for a guy to come in and run the offense. And wasn't looking for a particular offense necessarily. I was looking for a guy that was good character and then was passionate about it and really liked it, and then could, not only sell it to the kids, but sell it to the staff and teach the staff. And so he's done a great job of that.
I look forward to meeting him.
He's got a lot of passion for this particular.
I did meet him in your office real quick.
Yeah.
And his grandfather was the lead singer for the Temptations. So maybe at some point he can sing "Ain't Too Proud to Beg" for a win.
He would tell you he's the only guy in his family that's not in the music industry, and I don't think he's going to go there.
Ain't too proud to beg for a win.
Yeah. Anything that we can do, right? Yeah.
And then you got Harry Bellucci. How did you get him? A legendary coach. Hartford Public, 42 years coaching in Connecticut.
I think, as we've mentioned, I've been around a while, and so you make a lot of friends.
Yeah,
and so we coached on an All-Star when it was the Connecticut All-Stars against the Rhode Island All-Stars. I was lucky enough to be on a staff with him, and then at one other point, he asked me to come back, and I did the line for him back then. So we became friends. Yep. And at one point, when he retired, I'm a little bit relentless in recruiting and asking, so I harassed him, and he said, if I ever come back, I'll come back to Simsbury, because I like the way that you guys do things. Wow. And so he took a year off, and then, I gave him the yearly call. I go, here we are, checking in again. And so he's coming back, and he'll be, I didn't hire him particularly for anything. He'll probably stay on the defensive side of the ball. He feels probably strongest with D-backs, but he's a good presence. Yes. He's got good connections, and he's been there, done that. He sent kids to all different levels, and his brother-in-law,
Eric Mangini,
so there's NFL connections with that, and it's just
That's
not
nice.
Connections maybe for the guys, maybe not, but what the best part, he has stories and experiences that can go for the kids, and he's different. It's a fresh look, and he's excellent with kids. He's fun, and he's good to be around, and he's definitely a good get for our program.
Definitely, and he blends well with Josh Gilbert and Colby.
Zach Gilbert.
I mean Zach. Yeah, I'm sorry.
And Colby.
And then now you got Timmy Talbert.
Yeah.
Added to the squad.
Yep.
Great
Timmy,
kid, great family.
Finished playing
I
football
love
at
him.
Stonehill, and then came back, and he's going to help out with the offensive line.
And he's another Barry Colmary scholarship winner.
He's a good,
Stonehill. That's great. He's a good dude. And then you got 9, blended from all over, like Coach Ritter and
Enfield, Southington, and
Dank.
Dank, and Hamill from Southington.
Yeah.
So, we try to make it a good blend. I don't think it's necessarily, bad or good, but you kind of try to blend experiences to give the kids the best opportunities to learn from a bunch of different people.
Well, I'm class of 78, and I'm friends with Billy Garrity, 77, Pat Sullivan, class of 75, and they joke all the time that when they played, they had there was 3 coaches. Mm-hmm. A head coach, an offense, and a defense. And then they see you guys with 20, and they're like, what is going on?
In different people, and this is part of the thing, too, that I try to do, create an environment where there's flexibility for coaches. It's a lot to sacrifice for coaching, and you can't always be there, but if you have a lot of people around there's some guys that can come 3 days a week. There's some guys that come.
Right.
So we try to create
That's true.
I try to create some
point.
flexibility.
Yeah.
So,
Especially for
if I'm going to keep
volunteers.
that family, and that's a priority for us, well, there's coaches' families as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know from personal experience, I've missed a lot of my kids, and I have some regrets on that. And so
Sure.
if I want people to give the most they can to the kids, then I got to try and make it a workable environment.
Definitely.
So having a lot of,
That's a good
you have
point.
3 coaches, they're working their tails off.
Sure.
And when are they done?
And,
I've had
and
some
back
of
then
these
they were
coaches-
all teachers at the high school. So it's not like, Blair Zentek and Fury who have jobs and have to, work around that. So times have changed.
Times are changing. You have to adjust to that. I think I tried to do that as, I don't want to be the old coach that never changes their way. So we try to evolve a lot. And I like having, it's consistent though. A lot of these guys have been with us since 2015 when we took over. And then, we work a schedule. Like we're going to camp, like you said, for 3 days coming up. And all those guys are going for 3 days. So
that's awesome.
I think if you don't give them some flexibility at other times in the summer, like I do a lot in the summer with their jobs, and I can't make, you have to be flexible.
Sure.
And that's kind of part of my job.
Yeah, and Mike Fury, he's going to be your defensive coordinator.
Again.
He's a great guy, Simsbury guy.
Yep.
Played on the '98 state championship based little league team.
Yeah.
I love stuff.
He's
like
got a lot
that.
of energy, and he's really good. Like we do our flag league, and I always give them to the 2nd, 3rd grade kids because they have a lot of energy, and so does he. And he's a little bit, so he's got a lot of energy and passion for kids, and he's invested in their, like he's going to grad school now for mental performance, and how to he's very conscious of there's other aspects other than the X's and O's, and I think he applies that. So he's very good at that stuff. And
that's awesome. Too. I love your staff. Whenever I see them, they're so friendly to me. It's because of you and our relationship.
Yeah.
They're just such great guys.
Yeah, they're fun guys. We had a meeting last night, and I was watching them. They had a test or an exit ticket. They're all cheating off each other.
I love it.
Robbie.
Yep.
They're all.
There's
a lot of.
And he's bringing his son to games and practices. It's so cool.
Encouraged.
Yeah,
I like having
it's
the kids
really neat. Yep. So that's good stuff. And you guys meet once or twice a month during the winter and off season. I see you at the high school all the time.
Yeah. Well, we're lucky to have, number one, a space that allows us to work. Yeah. And that's a very much a workable space, the office.
Your office is unbelievable.
But it's a valued thing for us. We use it all year, and we use it multiple times.
And then right up above, you got that beautiful Garrity weight room.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That thing's got to be one of the best in the CCC.
No, it's a good one for sure. Yeah. And so we stay connected so we can keep things rolling.
And that goes right in. They lift 3 times a week, December through June.
In December they start, and then Coach Konopka runs an after school thing, and then once summer hits, they go 4 times a week. So they're there.
Wow.
Today's their day off. Actually, they go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
Wow. And Coach Steve Konopka, he's not on your coaching staff, but he's your strength and conditioning coach, and he's quite a unique individual.
Yeah, and he's gifted at what he does.
He's a really cool guy. I want to meet him. I haven't met him yet. I saw him at the golf tournament. Well, he just has a presence about him.
Yeah, well, he's huge. One thing is he's a big human, and he went to Conard.
That's unfortunate.
What are you going to do? Everyone makes mistakes. But so no, he's done an excellent job of where our growth has been with that. Last year we broke a record with kids in what we call an 800-pound club or 1,000-pound club. We broke a record with a number of those kids qualifying for that at the end of the summer. He says we're in the middle of testing this week. He says our numbers are great, and looks like we might either tie that or get past that. And so that means it's an effective program. That means that the kids are buying into it, and that is part of the progression from, I hate the word rebuild. I really don't like that. I don't. That's not a word. I mean, like I said, you're going to have years you win, lose, and they could be clumped together. You just got to break out of that, but it's part of the process to get to where we want to be.
Yeah, high school, I don't think you can really use rebuild. Professional sports, where you'll have people coming back, but high school, you're going to lose.
Yeah, we lose 20 kids, 30 kids every year.
Yeah.
So it is.
And then your leaderships, is that Doc Sully, does he
Yeah,
help
he still
run
does
those?
that. Yep, that's
Doc
another
Paul
guy who gives his
Sullivan,
time.
just a great guy.
And he's really invested in it. And he spends a lot of time with our captains and with kids that want to learn how to be leaders. And he's
A decorated war veteran,
he's a
doctor, a
and just-
triage doctor in many Call of Duties.
Most of the coaching staff doctor now.
Yeah.
He's taking us all on his patients. Yeah.
He took my son Avery as a patient when they were
He's
they
one
were
of
full.
the better humans.
I don't want to say anything.
He's one of the better humans that you can.
He is.
Yeah, he's just a good
He's a
person.
religious individual too.
He's just a
deeply
solid.
religious. Yeah.
You know, count on him to always put someone else first. And our
He's
kids.
he's a good
Yeah,
dude.
he's
You
a
got
good
him.
Yep.
And then coaches clinics. Do you just go to those? You bring some of the other
Well,
fellas?
you can. There's lots of ways you do it. Traditionally, you spend the winter in. It's probably I think it's probably February through March now, maybe even some in January. But there's clinics all over the country. I think football coaches have the most access to professional development because things are changing. And there's Glacier clinics, Nike clinics, and it's kind of unlimited. The staff goes. And you can do a lot online too. We pay for a membership, and then you can do lectures online.
I see. That helps.
That's the way to learn in football. And the off-season clinic season is one of the favorite for coaches because it's allows you to get a couple new. Like you're not trying to reinvent the wheel, and people have great ideas. I mean, no thought's really original, but have you applied it to what you? So there's always something that we try to take out of that season.
Keeps you fresh a little bit.
It does, and you go and meet with coaches can be all over the country.
That's neat.
You know, and that's different perspective as well.
Yep. Good fraternity.
Yeah.
And then you guys are busy in the spring and summer. Tell us a little bit about the passing league and your West Point trip.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
So we have not to this point done a formal spring passing league. We did this year. It was on Sundays, and again, if you're playing a sport, that's not for you. It's for kids that are not playing a sport, just lifting. But we compete. I think it was New Britain was there, Windsor was there, Manchester. It was a smaller league, East Catholic. And then we would meet on Saturdays, and it's 7-on-7. You know, your receivers, your quarterback.
Helmets and shorts and no shoulder pads.
No shoulder pads.
But helmets.
And it's two-hand touch. Not necessarily helmets.
No? Okay.
Some leagues have it, some leagues don't. When we go to
see.
West Point, they make us wear helmets.
I see.
Which I have zero problem with. But sometimes if you have a helmet and not the other stuff, you know, it's...
I see. You can catch a
you
helmet
can
off
catch
the
all kinds of
elbow.
stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily just some leagues have it, some leagues don't.
Yep.
I like it because I like when they catch a football with a helmet on because that's kind of more
realistic.
What I need you to do. So, but anyway, we did that on Sundays and that was great along with lift. And then in the summer, we did our normal Monday night league. We took a trip to West Point, which we have been doing for a number of years.
Boys got to love that.
They love it.
That's really
They
neat.
love it. And the linemen there's a lineman challenges at that. And there's
Good. They get a little love, the linemen. Yeah.
And they won at West Point. They won at Sheehan this year in our Sheehan Lineman Challenge, which is, went well this year.
During the hot months, too.
Yeah, it's nice. But we were successful in that. And the offense, we really wanted to join the spring and the summer and really focus on it because we were implementing some new offensive pieces and getting used to, Coach Q calling it and the quarterback and how we how they receive the plays, to how they're executed, to the options, to the reads, to the things that they need to operate. So we kind of went and made sure we emphasized that and really encouraged.
So Patrick Matisek, we'll talk about more about him later. He was playing Legion baseball, I believe, wasn't it? Did he get to go to those passing?
Yeah, he makes the quarterback.
That's good because that's key to have him.
It is. Well, it doesn't work if it doesn't.
Yeah.
If your QB1's not there. And so he did make that work, and we were lucky that they supported that.
Yeah, his mother and father are the best.
Yeah, they're good.
Steve's
and
just sham.
they're supporting his growth, and he's grown a lot. From going to camps to I told you he went to the Manning Passing Academy. That was a great experience. You get on a waiting list, and that's just fun.
Awesome.
So that's he's grown a lot physically too. He's a tall kid, and he's filling.
When's
out.
the last time you've had a returning 2-year starter? I don't know if you've ever had that.
Well, Aiden Bayshans would have been.
Jackson followed Shanley.
Well, you have Evan Wallace.
I mean
And then you
quarterback.
yeah.
Oh, Ev.
It's a rare.
Yeah.
It's a rare thing.
In high school, I
Yeah.
feel.
Because like my son was 1 year,
Yeah.
Butler was 1 year, Shanley was 1 year, maybe 2.
How about that Connor kid, the little guy who coaches Brady?
Matt's son, yeah.
Yeah, Matt. He was a starter as a freshman, wasn't he,
Yep.
last year?
You do what you got to do.
Yeah. All 140 pounds.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
We won't talk about that anymore. The golf tournament, great time. I love that tourney, Dave. I don't really play in a lot of scrambles. I'm not a great scramble player, but that Trojan football tournament is the best most fun of any tournament I play.
As you know, I just drive around and entertain myself because I'm not the most patient at that game.
Yeah,
so
no, you're
I
gonna
skip that game.
You get around and get pictures
I
with everybody.
just want to say hi because I feel that's a happy day for me because it's a community event. I get to see friends and old friends.
And you carry around a cooler.
Yeah.
My group's always like, "Where's Masters?" and the cooler.
Yeah, I think I become second fiddle at that point, but that's okay.
But it's fun. You get a great turnout too,
and it really is just.
And your booster club, Liz, and the whole crew. And
last year
the moms are phenomenal, and you get so many gifts that I'm up there doing the raffle for like an hour and a half because you have so many raffle prizes.
It's just a nice community. They do a good job, and it really
your
is.
booster program is top shelf.
Yeah.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yep. And then summer camp. I like the way you show up to these youth summer camps and youth football. You show up. You got your coffee. You got your gear on. I think that when I was young and coach shows up, I would lift my game. That's for sure.
Well, the piece of that is all my players are involved in the camp and the flag, and then my coaches help out with that too. And so it makes that connection. I like that part of it for sure.
Then that overnight camp is it?
That starts.
Is that a Kent school? Is it the
there's a private, not a private, but a residential. Camp? It's a summer camp for boys and girls in Kent, Connecticut. It's called Kentwood.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's a road that actually cuts through the middle of camp, and there's two different camps, like a boys and a girls side. They share a dining hall, but
old school.
It's beautiful. There's lighted baseball field there. There's go-kart. We don't have access to a lot of that because I don't need the access, but it provides us an opportunity. We go away. We put the cell phones away.
Bunk houses?
Big cabins, and you go by unit. So you have. Yeah.
Just like remember the Titans.
Like there's one half of the cabin is for the players, and then the coach gets the other 10 bunks on it to themselves. But it's a way for them to connect as a unit. So the offensive line has a bunk or a house.
Yeah.
The defensive line has a house.
Oh, that's great. How's the food?
Phenomenal.
It is really,
and it's endless. So
it's
endless. But it's mostly just to get away and really focus the first 3 days of practice starting on that. So we just focus on ourselves.
So this time tomorrow, next week, you'll be there. Wow, that's excellent. And then when is this practice start? Official practice?
19th.
That's the CIC.
Yeah. It's really there's OTAs, what they call OTAs, and that's handing out equipment. It's all funky this year because of the CIAC rule change, which allows you to work with your players. So all summer we had a couple hours on Wednesday where we would do walkthrough practices and we'd kind of practice. So that's different. So when you say started, I don't know. All the equipment will go out.
That's the official day.
So the 19th is really when most people are in full practice mode. There's a couple days before where you are OTAs, but the 19th is really the start of everything. And then our first scrimmage on the 28th, and then another one on the 31st. A week after is the game, and then before you know it, but we're starting a week later this year.
This regular season. I thought so.
Yeah, last year we would already be in it.
And you got Thursday games this year.
Yeah, too. That's because the officials.
That's what Jeff Penny told me.
You're mandated to have 2 Thursday games. That's not that great. I don't love that. And I don't love it for the kids.
Is it 2 Thursday home games? You happen to have 2 Thursday home games.
And every school one is after the bye. And so it's a short week, which is not good because you need every minute of the day to prepare to prepare. But so one's coming off the bye, which is good. But we play Windsor on a short week. It's not necessarily ideal, but it is what it is. So
because you open up, we'll get into the schedule a little later. Yeah, so you got some scrimmages. You got Wethersfield and Torrington on the 28th, as you said. Then you have a big powwow at home again with Cheshire, Hamden, Norwalk, and Westfield, Mass on the 31st.
Yeah, it's a big one. I like that one. There'll be 4 teams playing at once. One will be off, and we'll rotate through. And there's a lot of variety in the defense and the offenses that we will see that day.
I'm going to come out to that
There's
one.
good competition there with the schools that are attending. I mean, Norwalk comes.
Yeah.
They like it so much. They come up, and you know how far away that is.
Yeah.
They're there at 9 in the morning.
Yep.
So they come up, and it's one of the better ones. And I've scrimmaged, going back to the Wednesday one, I've scrimmaged Wethersfield since I was an assistant, I think forever. And so I like Matt McKinnon, who's over at Wethersfield. He does a good job.
That's awesome.
And I like, it's the other thing about it too, after this point, a lot of these guys are my friends, so it's fun to see them again.
Yeah. I'm going to go there on that 31st. That'd be good to watch.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of action going on there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Then you got Farmington. That's close to September 6th. That'll be a kind of a real scrimmage where you'll.
Well, that's what we call our game scrimmage, and that's when there's a lot that goes into football games in terms of cameras. You got the end zone cameras. You've got sideline. You can watch the replays on the sideline now. You want to make sure all your headsets are working.
I see.
So that scrimmage is generally
dress rehearsal, right?
Is a dress rehearsal, and it's not necessarily we don't play by that point. We kind of know what we're going to roll with in week 1. There might be some questions to answer, but we try to limit the playing time of guys that we already know. Give them a little bit of rest.
And that's a Friday, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we see some of the younger kids to give them a shot in a situation to see if they can rise up. And
nice.
That's the last kind of kickoff before we go into game 1.
On the road at Newington. So we got a little change, Dave. You and I talked about it before the show, and maybe folks might not realize it. Simsbury's double L, large, based on really size of school. So male students at the school. So we in football have dropped down to L.
We're in L.
You're in L now, and then we've been in Tier 1. Now we'll be in Tier 2 in the CCC.
Yeah.
How does that change anything, if at all?
It just gives us a few different teams that we would play. But, Fitch is an alliance game, so that doesn't really matter. But we're still playing Glastonbury.
Right.
We're still playing New Britain. We're still playing Conard. Enfield's back on the schedule. You got
Berlin again, right?
Berlin again. And we have someone that's what was I going to say? We've lost Hall.
Right.
And we lost Southington.
Southington.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first time I can remember not playing either one
Both
of them.
of those teams, for
I
sure.
mean, going back from when I was coaching at Hall
to
I've played Hall or been part of Hall since 1993. So
30 years.
Yeah. So that's a weird thing. And
Yep.
I was talking about, those are a lot of my friends, because I teach there. And so.
Sure.
And there's a new head coach there this year
Is
at
there?
Hall,
Wow.
and a new one at Southington.
Well, yeah, no, Drury.
And so, that's part of it too. But there's some familiar people. It just changes, and Windsor's back on here. But even when we were Tier 1, we still played Windsor, a couple of years ago. They're a tough team. Here, Coach Fleeting is an excellent coach.
Yeah.
He definitely has some tools, some football players in that.
That's your home opener.
Is that home opener?
Thursday.
Oh, that's fun.
We'll be At least no Maloney.
Huh?
No Maloney.
No Maloney. Maloney's off. So last year we had a lot of
tough,
big returning state champion teams. But the schedule is super competitive, and that's what we like.
Yep.
And hopefully, because the goal is to get to the playoffs, and we want a path that's competitive we feel like we have that this year.
Yeah, and Enfield's new. Yeah. I mean, they're back on the schedule, and South Windsor.
They were a playoff team last year too. They're good. They have a good crew returning.
You've played Newington in the past, Windsor, but Fitch and Platt, I don't remember you playing them before.
Platt, only our game scrimmage. That I had to switch out Platt and Farmington.
That's right.
Because we were playing Platt, we didn't want to scrimmage them, obviously. So I asked Farmington to come over, and they're coming.
And Alliance means Fitch is not in the CCC.
Correct.
And but Platt is. Yep. In every other school you play.
I think so.
I'd have to. Seemed like last year you played two teams that I thought Fairfield Ludlow and Stanford. They were Alliance games.
Correct.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's excellent, Dave.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the program. You've got great numbers as usual. And you had indicated 80 sophomores, juniors, and seniors. That doesn't count freshmen. And you always have great numbers.
Well, we do. We encourage everyone to play, so I do a pretty good job of, if you're going to walk by me and I'm going to ask you what you're doing in the fall, and if you don't tell me football, I say, well, you should consider football. So I think that I actively try to get kids involved in the football program for the reasons that we discussed before, because I think the program and the work and the grind and the adversity and all the things that come with football are good for kids.
Definitely.
And so I try to encourage that as a sport. If you're doing nothing, I would like you to do. If you're doing something, that's great, because you know how I feel about that. But
Yeah.
like, if you're not doing something, I would always try to encourage you to
It's
do
nice going to school on a Friday with that Trojan game jersey on. That's a lot of pride right there, in my opinion.
I mean, that's what we tried. I mean, I remember back to those days when I was
big time.
Those are just fun things to do. So we try to encourage that.
Good.
And we try to make it so, everyone feels like it's a good place to land. And I certainly try and build the program with a lot of stuff so that they have a lot of pride in it.
Who's the JV coach?
I have a lot of those guys.
Head coach? Do you have a head coach for JV and freshman, or is it a shared?
Silva runs the freshman, and then I would
TJ
say
Silva,
that Colby Chase, Blair Zentek, Steve Hamill, Zach Gilbert, and my
Your young bloods.
They enjoy JV, and it's a fun experience. They like doing it, and they have a lot of fun with it.
That's great.
And as long as they, I don't know if we call a head coach or not. Doc Sullivan goes sometimes. So, there's certain guys that call the offense, call the defense, and then,
Good.
If you ask Hamill, he'll tell you him.
He's the Southern
Well,
King guy.
I always enjoy.
He's older too. He's
I always
older.
enjoy the banter that they have when they go. Well, I'm the head coach. They're just fun.
Colby and Zach, when I see them, they just are so nice and come up to me, and they're young guys, And Blair's one of my all-time favorites. I coached him for 3 years in baseball. All the Zentek.
So
boys.
those are the guys that run.
them.
Those are the guys that run that.
That's great. So last year, we talked about this time last year, Coach, you went to a 2-platoon offense and defense. And that was a change for you.
Yeah, it was a significant change. And there were lots of bumps in the road trying to figure out how that would work. And how we looked at the end of the season as opposed to the beginning was change. And so even the off season, we looked at what did we do well, can we improve on, how do we? So we're just evolving now, like not a rebuild. We're just trying to learn the new path.
Sure.
And so we feel like we made some steps forward in trying how to do that. Coach Fury definitely having the experience as running the defense, trying to get Coach Q up. Coach Q is, he's learning too. Like the systems and the program is a little bigger and different.
And the players.
Yeah, it's just a little different, like how we do things, from even the practice planning.
Than NFA.
Yeah, it's just a lot. Then, it's just a new system for him. So we're going to have another little, evolution here trying to get, we're not bringing back the same OC. We got the DC. Fury will be helpful. I'll be helpful. The other coaches will be helpful. But we want to try and get on the same page as fast as possible so we can take advantage of those mistakes or learning from those mistakes from last year.
And for folks in the watching the show, is 2-platoon means you have a defense, 12, and you got a
which is kind of rare for high school.
Is it? I was going to
It's a college thing and a pro thing, and you have to have the right amount of players.
Sure.
And you can't, like, if your best player is an offensive player, and
he can be a good
play
defensive
player
back
too. Like, they're going to play both ways. Like,
you have to.
It's not and I would say
it's not cut and dry.
It's not as cut and dry, and that's a learning curve too. How do we have, if you have a kid that is your best player at linebacker and he's the best player at running back, you got to mesh those two.
Yeah.
Chad played a little bit two-way. Like, there were those guys, and how you practice that makes a difference too.
Sure.
So it does make difference, but you also have to have the right amount of coaches for that too.
Right.
And that goes back to why you have a big staff, because you can't be flip-flopping. So basically, if you were playing receiver, you'd be practicing for 2 hours as a receiver and not splitting your time. So think of all that growth. And so that's one of the reasons.
It changes your practice structure.
And if you're playing teams like Southington and Hall, who are 2-platoon, you need to balance out that's an endurance piece.
Sure.
If you are going both ways, and I'm from Southington, and I'm only going one way,
Right.
halfway through the game, you've played a full game. I've only played half.
That's
so
huge.
that's another try to balance that out.
The average fan doesn't, I don't think, recognize that, Dave.
Yeah, there's a lot. But it's there's lots, and really one of the reasons I like doing this is because it kind of points that stuff out too.
Good. And you got some good depth, especially at wide receiver, you said. And you got some key returning players, none more than Patrick Matisak, your quarterback. And you're going to think about maybe going to a little more of a spread offense because of that depth at receiver and tight end.
We're just going to try and take advantage of the guys that have returned, that have the playing experience on the varsity field on Friday night. And that's our receiving crew. It's our quarterback, I wouldn't say we're a different offense. We're going to emphasize different things and how we get there. So I would say that's a change for us.
Because you've got Patrick, great passer. You got Shane Butler, tight end. You got Andrew Kerwin, Alex Medina, 2 returning wide receivers.
Yeah, those are the splits that are returning, and they've really grown over the course of the offseason. Kerwin particularly because he wasn't, I kind of talked him into playing football.
Is that right?
Or he had, and I think Shane may have had something to do with that. But, those guys, it takes a little while. You can start late in football. I did. But there's some skill sets like receiver that it's good to have some history with. And so there's a learning curve for all that stuff. Because there's catching a football, and then there's catching a football, taking a step, and getting tackled. There's some things that it's not backyard, it's not like other things. So you have to get used to a lot. You have to get used to contact. You have to get used to catching with a helmet on. You have to get used to catching and competing for balls and then running routes. I mean, it's precise timing. It's
Definitely.
It's not like, other things.
Who will be your running backs?
Well, Cole Roberts is there. Nick Babigan, who's actually put up great weight room numbers, is going to be there. That's a job that we're looking to, and we talked about, that being one of the open positions, I would say.
Wow, Cole's a sophomore.
Yes.
Wow, that'd be nice.
He loves football.
That's
and
excellent.
it shows.
Wow. Yeah. And then Marshall Potter's got a strong leg.
He's got a strong everything. He's a big kid.
6'3", 200, right around there.
Yeah, he's one of those athletes that can do things that, he's the best shot putter in the state, or one of them, holds records.
Wow.
Can throw the discus farther than most people, and he can just, run, kick, do things that, he's a good athlete, and so he'll play defensive line. He'll be a defensive lineman for us with Max Konopka and Sean Metz, and there's a crew of those guys that'll do that, and I feel like that's a strength of ours as well. We have some good athletes in that area.
Wow, let's talk about Max Konopka. What a wrestler.
Well, he's the best wrestler
in the state.
Yeah, well, in
New England.
And he's also a national champion.
Unbelievable. He's only a sophomore.
The only loss that he suffered this whole entire year was when he went to Fargo just recently.
I saw that.
And he ended in the championship game.
Unbelievable.
Probably something that could have gone either way. He's an excellent. Yeah.
6'2", 200, Dave. So say he's 15 years old, 16. In wrestling, is he going to wrestle guy? It's all weight class, right? So he could be 15, he'd be wrestling a kid 19.
Correct.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So he, and his, if you ask him, he'll say his favorite sport's football. So, okay.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
Wrestling's one tough sport.
Yeah, and he works really hard at that. But I think the football, he's passionate about it, and it gives him a break, and it helps him focus. And I know his dad played football, and
His dad has the, is it Taekwondo? Oh, he doesn't have a studio. Okay.
He does. He has a gym in his house that services.
I'm mixing him up. The Tanwan restaurant next door has.
No, that's not.
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. My bad. Good. So that sounds good. And then just some other shout outs is Gilly Baxter, Theo Kudawu. I got to learn these names.
That's the best name going, right?
It is. And then we talked about Tate, Griffin Humes, inside linebacker.
A lot of those guys are going to have, Griffin, Nate, Brennan.
Nate Laurel.
Yeah, those guys are going to.
Brennan Conley and Sean Metz.
It's their time to shine. You know what I mean? They've worked hard. They're good. All their numbers in the weight room are really good too. So they're going to have their time to shine now.
Sean Metz, NT. What position is that?
Nose tackle.
Nose tackle. Wow. Tough position. Who's your offensive center? You probably don't know.
Gilly.
Gilly? OC,
It's like those are-
my bad.
yeah,
Thank you.
the-
That's I give that job a lot of kudos.
Yeah, it's a hard job.
It's a hard job.
The offensive line is a hard job, and it is the most important thing for us for sure.
Were you an old lineman in
Oh yeah.
Springfield?
Yeah. Well, I went as a linebacker, and then
Yeah.
I got changed.
Guard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At Springfield tackle.
At Springfield tackle. Yeah.
But that's a good, back in our day, we played both, and so I was a guard linebacker, and that's kind of a common, that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
But there's lots of opportunities for jobs, and a lot of the young kids are going to have to step up and do it. So, because we did lose a lot of seniors, and particularly on the offensive line.
You got 18 returning seniors.
Yep.
That's nice. Is that in right about where you usually are, 18 to 20?
Yeah, I think we've had 26.
You've had 26 in the past.
Our
Wow.
sophomore class is 37. I don't, you hope that they all stay, but sometimes life gets, you figure out something else that you want to do.
Sure.
But
And then starters, guys who had good PT, this list that you provided, and we talked about, those guys all saw the field last year in varsity.
some of them, I wouldn't say those are all starters last year. But
No, not starters,
yeah.
but
Oh, they've seen Phil. Yeah,
yeah, they've seen the field.
I think
Yeah.
the experience comes in being two platoon. You get a lot of reps in practice. You're always going against them. So that's the other advantage too. So of that system.
That's great.
So even if you're not getting on the film, you're still getting quality reps. You're not standing on the sidelines or
Yeah.
you're working.
Yeah. And the field last year, Dave, had to be weird. As we do all of the home games on SCTV, this will be our 14th year. And just to talk about that real quick, we have a new crew, Bob Bromlett, who is going to be helping us on Simsbury Community Media football games. He did basketball last year, and he just brought it to a whole new level. Former ESPN, ABC sports guy. We're so fortunate to have him. We just named him to the board, Bob Bromlick, and his son Will have multiple cameras, switching devices, on-field camera, and Bob and I will be meeting next week.
We're going to do on-field interview. Remember, you know how they do in the pros? With the coach
He'd
has
love to do that. He'd love to do
Probably
it.
not my shining moment.
Oh, you're good, David. Just you know it. But we talked about the Gridiron Club, and we'll finish with that. Is what a great crew of support staff you have with the moms and dads, the butlers, and all the folks that you rotate through every year is really unique to Simsbury High School in my history.
The Gridiron Club has evolved, and a lot of that has to do with Liz, who's now, I think, in her 8th year.
With 3 boys.
Yeah. So, and her last. And her last.
Liz, come on, you gotta come back.
Good luck with that one. If you can do that, I would appreciate that.
She's my neighbor. I'll go
No,
cut
just
Steve. I'll cut
whatever
your
you
grass for you.
But they've done an extraordinary job, and to be honest, there's the football pieces, and then a lot of that other stuff
Yeah.
is her and I talking every day. What do you think about this? How can we? And she's always got ideas on how to make it better, enhance the program, enhance the experience for the kids, for the parents. No, she doesn't miss anything, and so she's always on top of it. And to be honest, I work with her as much as the coach. We are in constant contact.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I will miss her
Yeah.
a lot.
And how about the old ambulance?
Oh, yeah, it's
I
still
love
running.
that thing.
We had to get it. It wasn't starting, so I had to call Steve and he had to go fix it. So he did.
Oh, that's
but that's
good.
running well, and that's really it's funny because I think when we unveiled it, it was like, what are you going to do with that? But it's become
You bring it on road games
yeah,
for equipment.
I mean,
and
it's
stuff.
all our stuff.
Yeah.
When you have a lot of stuff and you have a lot of kids, you have a lot of need to get that stuff.
It looks
in different
great in the
places.
parking lot too.
Oh yeah,
I love that. If you haven't seen it, I believe the Garrity's donated the ambulance.
They gave the
and you decked it out, man. You hooked it up with some serious bling.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
That's fun.
And you got a golf cart now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's another tool that we use because we're removed and there's all this stuff that we have to haul out, so it doesn't make it. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you give me a ride with all my equipment up to
Anything
the
you want,
booth. It's great. Do you have a roach on that thing? Is there?
No, there's always a roach.
There's a roach. He's
There's
one
a
of your
roach pretty much
ex-players.
anything.
That
Yeah.
was great.
There's a roach on just about
The guy who I loved went to Bentley.
Noah.
Noah, yeah.
I saw him.
Yeah, that was great.
But that's another example of kids reaching back out. And
Yeah,
that tradition of our offensive line is one of
Yeah.
those things. So yeah, that's
Well, this was great, Dave. You know, this is really good to do. And we'll do one maybe halfway, maybe your
Do it on the
bye
bye
week.
week. Sure.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. We'll do a bye week show, and we'll be able to look at some film. We'll get John Helmkamp, a friend of Simsbury Trojan Football, and a good buddy of mine, to put some film together. We want to thank Patrick Phelan and Cole, his assistant here in the office, and all the board members, Don Calantonio, Mary Glassman, Paul Hinault, Tom Beneke. We got a great crew of board members here at Simsbury Community Media.
This is extraordinary.
This place is beautiful. It's so professional, and it just gets better every time I come down here. Patrick's got enhancements, and he's so passionate about this studio, and it really means a lot to the community. And
Yeah, it's a nice thing.
yeah, and anyone watching, get involved. Any volunteer can come down here and do a show. Patrick will set you up, and he'll make you look good like he makes us look good.
Yeah, that's just hard to
It
do.
is.
It's not easy.
So this wraps up our first 2024 edition of Inside Trojan Football here at Simsbury Community Media, SCM. As a reminder, all past games and our coaches' shows can be viewed on demand online at simsburytv.org. Also, going to YouTube and just simply typing in the search Simsbury Football or Inside Trojan Football. Also, keep up with the Trojan football season as we cover all the home games here on Simsbury Community Media. So thank you, Coach Masters. You do a great job. Coach and I have been friends for 20 years, going back to Little League, and it's just, I feel like we're in our living room talking when I'm with you, Dave. He involves me in the golf tournament. I know all the coaches. They're just a great group, and I am part of the Simsbury football family.
You are, Raj, and I think this is one thing that we've started together that I really think is fun to do. I think the kids, the players love it, the families love it, you know, and hopefully it can shed some light on some stuff too, which I think
Definitely.
is great.
I think anyone in the youth football program, parents, freshmen, to watch this and see Dave Masters and the compassion, the enthusiasm, and the love he has for Simsbury football and Simsbury sports is absolutely phenomenal. I always say it, he's the hardest working coach in the CCC, hands down.
Thanks, Raj.
I mean it. And as we always end our show, Coach, Trojan pride.
You bet, buddy.
Love you, brother.
I love you.
All
too.
right.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.